I'm not even sure what the correction
So
is
we've added 258. I think we had just 260 and 264.
Okay, so we have an addition of 258 as
Right.
the
Right,
lot.
right.
And on under other business, we will be having a discussion about the Town Village Planning Commission collaboration. So before we get going, I'd like to swear everybody in. So if anybody's going to present any comment this evening, if you could just please stand, we'll swear you in and we'll move on from here. Do you swear that any testimony you present this evening will be truthful to the best of your abilities? Thank you. Way we're going to roll through tonight, we've got 2 consent agenda items. Any discussion or commentary on the consent agenda items will be presented during the public comment section, of which that is also for commissioners to raise questions and ask questions and provide comments also. So, first item on our agenda this evening is public comment, and that is on any item that's not on our agenda or on either of the 2 consent agenda items that we have in front of us tonight.
Yeah, Peter? Who's Peter? Nate's running late.
Okay.
He went to the wrong place.
Okay, that's a public comment.
I have a question.
Okay.
On the auto body thing. The staff report said that there was 2 light poles and 5 building mounted lights being added, but the lighting plan shows 3 light poles at least.
So they were approved, those were added to what was already approved.
Okay, so there's, all right. Okay, and where are the building mounted lights going? In the front or the back or side? Or?
Was there not a picture in your?
There's a picture, and it shows a bunch of them, but it
So,
doesn't show which
to the
ones.
back of the, so now I'm going off my memory, so to the back of the building after you drive in.
Yep, there's 3 there.
So it's in between the 2 buildings, and then when you come out the neighboring driveway, there's a little tuck in, and it's
Right there.
against that.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Okay. All right, so really 2 will be visible from the road. Great.
Good. Any other comments on the consent agenda items or any other public comment? Moving on to the consent agenda, we have 2 items. And I would either take a motion for both or a motion singly if folks want to split them up.
I move we approve the consent agenda item, both items. First being the boundary adjustment, Carolyn Bissett and Chris Paya at 258, 260, and 264 Colchester Road. And the site plan amendment, Nate Crete, Nate's Automotive, proposing the minor changes as presented, the previously approved office and storage building.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Ned, seconded by Josh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Consent agenda items are approved. Hey. Okay, I'm stealing this today. The next item on our agenda is the sketch final site plan public hearing for Mike Tatro doing business at 83 Center Road. He's proposing to demolish existing structures and construct an attached dwelling garage, detailing garage, and a duplex building. His property is located at 83 Center Road in the residential business district. Staff discussion on this.
Sure, just a little overview for everybody. This is 83 Center Road, basically right across from the Sunoco and Essex Discount Beverage. It's the greenhouse. It's all boarded up and fenced over right now. The applicant's looking to tear that down and put up 2 new buildings. The building in the front would be a residence and a car detailing garage. In the back would be a duplex. As Dustin said, it's in the residential business zoning district. It's also in a business design control overlay district. Business design control doesn't apply to 1 or 2 family homes, but because this mixed-use building front here.
Let me interrupt just for a moment. I needed to just point out and offer, I do live in line with this parcel. I I forgot to bring that out at the beginning. I do apologize. I'm not immediately adjacent, but I am in line with it down the gully that goes out behind it. So I wanted to offer that as a potential conflict of interest, and if anybody wanted me to step aside, I would.
No, I have no problem.
Okay, just wanted to make that clear. Sorry, pardon me.
So business design control standards do apply to the front building here, the mixed-use building. There are some graphics in your packets. It's got sloped roofs, gabled roofs, little porches in front, double-hung windows, a lot of the criteria that's described in the 1986 design control standards and in the zoning regulations. I'm happy with the aesthetics of it, but we can talk about that more if that comes up. Additionally, it's technically has to be reviewed as a subdivision proposal. The definition of subdivision includes that of a mixed-use project that includes housing. So mixed use, it has housing in it. That's why it appears in the application as a sketch / final / site plan public hearing. Be a minor subdivision. Staff talked about it. We're okay with it being processed in one hearing, but just wanted to bring that up in case the commissioners are less comfortable with that approach. Beyond that, the applicants are requesting a waiver from the driveway right here. Technically, our regulations say driveways need to be 6 feet from the property line. This is more like 1 or 2 feet. The requested waiver said that there's a culvert drainage area, catch basin, I believe, over here that limits the ability of the driveway to move further to the west. I'm okay with that request. And another waiver request to have the driveway serving 3 homes. It's an area where we're looking to minimize curb cuts. There's a curb cut in place, so public works standards allow a single access way to serve a multi-family housing project, which I believe this is. So again, I'm okay with that waiver as well, but just wanted to bring that up. I believe that's it, unless there's questions. Otherwise, it is what it is.
You presenting for the applicant?
Yes, I am. I'm Dan Heil. I'm with O'Leary Civil Associates. Also with me tonight is the landowner and applicant, Mike Tatro, in the audience. Greg did a great job summing up the project. The proposal is to demolish an existing single-family home and detached garage on a 0.7-acre parcel within the residential business zoning district. We would be constructing 1 single-family home, 1 car detailing garage classified as a personal service establishment, and 1 duplex unit. Personal service establishment is less than 2,000 square feet per the zoning regulations. It's 1,040 square feet. Access to the site would be through this single curb cut here. We would be widening it to 24 feet within the V-Trans right of as was part of the approved letter of intent from V-Trans. From there, the drive comes down the easterly property line behind the mixed-use building in front of the duplex unit. So all access to both buildings would be through this single drive. We don't have any direct driveways to the units off Route 15. It's all through here. We are proposing 14 parking spaces, 13 are required. That includes 5 garage spaces, 7 driveway spaces, and we have 2 on-site, including 1 handicap accessible space over here. All units will be served by municipal water and sewer connections. We'll be utilizing the existing connections to the existing single-family home to minimize disturbance within the right-of-way. We were approved for the additional wastewater allocation by the select board for that. Stormwater runoff will honor the natural drainage pattern. The site slopes from north to south. Storm from the access drive will be collected via absorption trenches on either side of the drive, where it'll be conveyed to the on-site storm sewer system, and daylight in the southeasterly corner of the parcel, or southeasterly portion of the parcel. Storm from the structures and the drive in between them will either be collected via the on-site drainage system, or it'll sheet flow to the southeasterly corner of the parcel too, where we have some riprap and outfall protection over there. We are less than half an acre of impervious area, and therefore we don't trigger the town's stormwater management requirements or state stormwater management requirements for this project. And as Greg mentioned, we are looking for 2 waivers with this project. One is to allow this first 37 feet on site to be closer than 6 feet to the easterly property line. And as Greg mentioned, that is due to an existing catch basin that we were trying not to disturb and tear up. It's fairly new. I think the town had public improvement drainage plan within the center road and installed that catch basin. So what we did, we widened the drive and we shifted it as close as we could to this catch basin to maintain as much distance as we could from this easterly property line. We're approximately at 2 feet at the pinch point. Once we get on site, the drive narrows down to 20 feet, and we're able to obtain the 6-foot separation after the first 37 feet on site. To help mitigate that proximity of the drive to the property line, we are proposing a 6-foot-high vinyl fence along here, which would help screen that drive from the adjacent parcel. And the second waiver would be to allow the drive to access more than 2 residential units. That is really just to limit curb cuts onto Route 15 and minimize the number of turning movements and the number of turning movements onto Route 15 as well. So that is the second waiver. And I was going to hop to the conditions unless you guys have any questions at this time. So looking through the staff notes, we didn't really have any concerns, and conditions as well, we don't have any concerns with. There were a couple conditions pertaining to the site plan that I wanted to address. The first is condition number 4. Prior to issuance of a zoning permit, the applicant shall revise the site plan to show a 30-foot rear setback. That's down here. And we're fine with this condition. We'll revise the site plan to show that 30-foot rear setback. The proposed duplex unit will not need to be shifted to reflect that new setback, so we will update that. Number 6, applicant shall submit a revised lighting plan showing the LED fixtures for all external lights. We'll be doing that as well. So we will update that lighting plan to show LED fixtures. And number 10, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall show curb stops for each dwelling unit on the proposed duplex. Right now, we were showing curb stops up here in the right-of-way, but Public Works would like us to show them down here as well. So we will be revising that to show curb stops for the duplex unit. And that is it. We're fine with everything else.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah, I wish on the site plan you had something to show where the 11 parking spaces are going to be. I'm having a little trouble following where they might be here.
So we have 5 garage spaces, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 2 in the car detailing garage. And then we have 7 driveway spaces, which would be 2 here, 2 here, 1 here, and 2 here. And then we have 2 additional on-site spaces over here.
Show me that again.
Looking at that, then they're going to spend half their free time shuffling cars in and out of their driveway if they want to use the car that doesn't happen to be the end one in your three-car lineup going into the garages in those rear houses. Do you, and I think I see that as a problem. How, you know,
Outline those-
how do you overcome that?
They would have to coordinate where they're parking.
Yeah, I mean, you got people working different shifts, you know, things. It's very unrealistic, in my opinion, and, you know, in that light, I have real trouble with that.
Can you outline again, especially on the back units, where the parking is for those back units?
So there's one single garage space here.
Yep.
One single garage space here. And then there could be up to an additional 2 spaces in the drive.
So what you're pointing out here is that 2 garage and then 2 cars stacked in front of each of those garages. Is that correct?
Up to 2 would be
Well,
possible to
that,
be stacked in front of those garages.
Of the required spaces you have, you'll have them stacked 3 deep for half of the spaces that you're required to have.
How many are required?
This is required to have 11. So you've got 6 of
But
them.
it's 10 feet wide. Technically, you could put them.
You can't get 2 cars. You can't pass 2 cars at 10 feet.
You can't pass 2 cars, but, I mean,
All right, that's all I got.
We could look at possibly widening that, but it really would be up to 3 cars. More realistically, you'd have 2 cars for each unit, and then the homeowners would have to coordinate where they were parking. Who's parking in the garage or who's parking in the driveway.
What's the required number of spots?
13.
13.
How many for each?
2.3 per unit, so rounding up between 3 of them, it's 7 residential parking
Yeah.
spaces.
Okay, let's hold on that, because I'm counting. 6, 7, 8, 11. I don't buy the stacking as a parking.
What?
I don't buy stacking as parking.
I don't.
It's stacking the cars I don't see as parking. So that's a discussion point.
I've been there, done that. It's not.
What else do we have? I'd like to know, like, get a little bit more about I have a concern about the drainage into the back. And I see you've got the riprap sitting there. But I'm a little concerned about the drainage into the town forest. Because that gully that's back there, that a lot of the properties around there feed into, that gully has had a significant amount of erosion, and I say erosion. Like we've seen in a lot of parcels, I'm concerned about adding a lot of outflow into that watershed, because that goes directly down into the Elder Brook by the drainage stream, whatever the right phrasing is. The drainage stream that there goes right down into the Elder Brook. And the parcel next door, there's a fair amount of debris on the bank. There's a fair amount of runoff. So I'm concerned that even with the limited amount of impervious that you've got, it's going to generate a significant amount of outflow into that watershed.
I mean, we are increasing the impervious area. Right now, there really is no control out there. It's all just sheet flowing back there.
But it's also all grassed over right now. Even the drive behind the building is essentially grass.
We are increasing the impervious area, but it is right now just sheet flowing back there. We are proposing absorption trenches. These are B soils out here, so there will be some absorption within those trenches. And this riprap outfall protection is used to dissipate the energy coming out of this pipe here. There is a 1-foot sump in this riprap outfall protection that would be used to slow down.
Is there anything prior to that riprap that would slow, I mean, is that the direct outfall from those trenches?
That is the direct outfall from those trenches.
So, we have in the parcel directly immediately next to mine, the town put one of those drainages in. And they had a very small outflow, very small amount, and essentially the entire hillside was taken out. And they had to go back and backfill with a lot of larger stone, not just small stuff. So again, I've outflow having a negative impact on that bank, and it is all soil, it is all sandy, wet soil, and it tends to go away easily.
Yeah.
So I'm a little concerned about that. And I don't know what else to say about it right now, so I'm still,
Yeah. We've been to provide stormwater computations, as we are under that half an acre of impervious area. We could provide a pre and a post analysis to see what the increase would be, but there is an increase in runoff from this site. We could expand upon this riprap outfall protection a little bit more, help stabilize that flow coming out of that storm drainage pipe.
I'm leaning more towards doing something proactively than waiting and then having to recover from damage that's been done. But I don't have anything formed in my mind right now, other than I'm concerned about it.
Well, we could follow up with Public Works and looking at the storm outfall protection and look upon expanding riprap area immediately downstream of where we're daylighting, help dissipate that energy coming out.
We could easily add a infiltration trench in the back of that outfall and make it, and turn it more into a spreader type system, so you have a big infiltration area that when it fills up, then it sheet flows off. Instead of sheet flowing at a point,
Yeah.
it sheet flows, maybe over 20 or 30 feet,
Okay.
20 or 30 foot long portions. And that should certainly go a long way to minimize any erosion that might happen out of that.
'Cause that whole area is very, very wet. As soon as you concentrate the outflow, it just sort of washes away.
Yeah, that would be easy for us to make that kind of modification.
That would be good. What else we have? Josh?
I was just going to agree with you because I'm on the other side of Alderbrook, and it's the soil's sort of like a sandbox when you put a hose in it. And so anything to mitigate that from washing out on that side would be good.
The soil on the top is actually pretty good. It's just that when you get down to a certain depth, and
Yeah.
it varies anywhere between 5 to 20 feet down, it turns more into a fine sand or almost a clay type soil. And so you tend to have the infiltration that happens up on top on the flat here kind of works down and gets to that surface that doesn't infiltrate. So it sheets along that surface, and that's where you tend to get that flowing action a little bit further down the bank. Pretty common all over there.
John? Okay, back to you, Ned.
What?
Anything, what, do we see anything? I mean, it feels like the parking is still,
Parking is still an issue. I don't know if we've got some other people, maybe we want to have
Okay.
the public and see if there's any other opinions.
fair enough. Sounds like you just made a motion to
Make a motion, we open a public hearing.
Moved by Ned, seconded by Tom.
Whatever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Now, I have one person that came in a little bit late, and if you don't mind, if you want to ask questions, I'd like to have you stand and just swear you in. Two. We had two. So if we could just stand, I'll swear you in. Do you swear that any testimony you present this evening will be truthful to the best of your abilities? Okay. And if you can make sure that you've signed in on the clipboard as well. Okay, the public hearing is open, folks, so if you have any questions, please raise your hand. We'll recognize you. You can state your name for the record, and we'll hear what you have to say.
I don't have much to say, but I was thinking about
And just so they get it on tape, if you could state your name. I know who you are,
Sharon
but
Cousin.
thank you.
I live next to there is a real problem with runoff there, and it's a very high water table, and I've reached out on to it. Usually only in the spring, they'll get picked up. if you want less impervious surfaces, I'm against adding parking spaces. I mean, I have the same situation. I only allow 2 cars for rentals. And everybody has a driveway to move their car around. It's like pretty common. But if you're worried about runoff, why add more impervious surfaces? That's your problem.
Yes.
Well, well, what's the possibility of using impermeable surfaces? They do exist.
And I don't really work in Vermont, they don't respect that for reason.
It's a lot of times it's a maintenance issue after a couple of years.
It works in Florida.
Yeah, between the salt and the sand, a lot of them get clogged and then they turn impervious after a few years without proper maintenance. It's really,
Even when they're installed properly?
you have salt from snow and dirt that fills the pores and the permeable surface.
You work really well when you have non-daily uses, like you need a parking lot, say, for a church that might be once a week, or like a wedding facility that has most of its business in the summer. Works pretty good for there, but for someone where you have people come and go and go in the winter time, it just doesn't seem to work well. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that, yeah, I mean, the solution to the problem with the stacked parking is to make those driveways just enough wider so that they can parallel park and somebody can still get out.
That's adding more impervious surfaces.
Right.
There's no room.
It makes it pretty ugly, being a neighbor to have a giant parking lot.
Okay.
We are at pretty close to the maximum lot coverage as well, so adding impervious surface, we'll have to start looking to see where we can subtract it from somewhere else.
Did I finish?
You had a,
I'm
you,
finished.
okay.
And I'm not too long. The other thing is, I noticed you're taking out some pretty established trees. I mean, they're not lovely, but they're gigantic and tall, and you're putting in cantilever pear trees. I figure you're gonna be kind of starting like that.
No, I think we call that out on the site plan. They're 2 to 2.5 caliber when they're installed.
That's typically about 8 feet. Yeah, about 8, 6 to 8.
The ones there are this big. I don't know, I just think they're a little bit bigger. And let's see, I don't know. That was about it, and my other thing is, whoever's doing this, not use my driveway. Every time, like sidewalks or whatever, mine's not pervious either, but I have a dirt driveway, so this messes me up. Anyway, just ask, what's that?
You had a question now.
Okay, my question is,
If you could just for the record, state your name.
my name is Carla Sear. So I own the property to the lower left, see Sear, says it right there. Right now, take your little red thing, right to the left of that is this great big gully that goes down into this river up above. Where it says, something lot, like,
Basically, right.
no, in there, keep going to the left, in there, go up. That whole thing is like, what are they doing with that? Are they just leaving that the way it is? Or are they planning on doing something with that?
That's outside of your work zone. And that's sort of related to the discussion we were having about the drainage in that section that I was concerned about the excessive, the drainage, what that might have, an impact that might have on the gully.
Yeah, because on Sunset, they're having, just about all of my neighbors have, wet basements and sub pumps, and when it rains, all the water just sits on top of the road and it doesn't drain. So, I'm just wondering what they're gonna do with, what's happening, who owns that piece of property? What's gonna happen with that piece of property with the big gully is that goes down into the river?
Well, that's not on this parcel, that's part of the town forest.
Okay.
And that's one of the discussion points we've had, is whether or not the outflow or the drainage from this site would have an impact, because that gully does go right to Alderbrook. So, yeah, that's been part of our discussion. So you're you now are gonna be marking out where the heck was it, 30-foot? What's the condition?
It's a 30-foot
Rear setback.
rear setback. I believe this is 15 feet that's shown right now.
Yep.
Condition
So
four.
30 feet would be about here. This is the top of the bank. The ravine is where it really gets going, but up around here, as Dustin said, it's outside the work zone. If there's established waterways or streams, there's a little bit more protection in terms of setbacks and distance from the top of bank. There is not any sort of stream or waterway running through here. Alderbrook is down further for sure, but there's nothing in this part of the ravine.
Unless it rains.
Right.
So they're not gonna be dealing with that part at all?
This blue line right here is our silt fence. So right now, we are proposing the limits of construction, extending this far south of the property. This blue line is.
Okay.
But if you could add water to these basements, potentially, there's no way you can figure that out, I mean, that's an element. But more impervious surfaces do that, better chance of water having no place to go and basements are having more water.
The water would be conveyed downstream at a lower elevation than the
Or
surrounding
maybe going the other way,
basin.
you just never know until you basement fills up.
So I think this doesn't hit the threshold of major development, and I don't, you guys can jump in at any point, but I'm not seeing that, for me, that I'm more concerned about the drainage. There's a good slope, there's good drain back towards that gully, that parcel goes in that direction now. I don't see that being an impact. My concern really was the potential for increased concentrated outflow into the gully and the potential damage that could do. And if you've got proposals that could mitigate that with Public Works approval, then I would be comfortable with that, more so than I am with just the small riprap
Yeah.
that you propose at this point.
We could work with public. Works on that.
Yes, Paul, I'm sorry.
Just out of curiosity, is there an elevation of the front of the building that's on closest to Route 15?
Yes. Let me try to pull it up.
So that's what faces Route 15?
You have the residence here and the detailing garage here.
That's very much in keeping with the center.
Nice. Yep.
Drop that siding off of your property if you want.
It smells good.
Do we have any other questions at this point?
So the condition's gonna be that Public Works reviews the drainage? Is this the final?
Well, that's part of what our discussion is. If it is final, if we agree to as it's been presented, then I'd want to have a description in there, and Paul had supplied something, or you had supplied something to describe a mechanism to fan the outflow, and I don't remember the right terminology, but I want to capture that terminology and then get approval from Public Works. That would be acceptable and potentially mitigate the future outflow
It's called
challenges.
a spreader trench.
Okay. Remember that.
So where does that go? Where does this trench go?
It goes on the back of the parcel. So that would take the outflow from the lot, and instead of just having it shoot out, it would spread it out. Is that correct?
Slow it down, yeah.
So-
Well, why can't you just put it in the gully so it's going down into the river?
It is going into the gully.
Just more slowly.
But we don't want it to erode the gully away.
Right.
Marshal land away.
It's gonna run down, once it's down there, it's slowed down, it has less velocity, and it won't cut the soil
Because
back.
my property's right there and I'm already having water issues, so you're really scaring me because you're saying you're gonna fan it out. How is it gonna fan out?
It's gonna fan out and go downhill into the gully.
It won't go towards your property.
Just have a high water table.
It's gonna direct the outflow into the gully. It's just, instead of doing it in a small stream that could erode the bank and cause tremendous, a significant amount of damage, it'll fan it out so that it can go and just naturally go downhill.
We'd be glad to provide her with a copy of the final plan, and if she had questions, we could discuss it with Public Works also.
Right now, we are providing the riprap protection right here, and it's approximately 10 feet wide. The level spreader trench would increase the width from 10 feet to a number we'd have to come up with, but it would be greater than 10 feet, so it would dissipate that flow over a larger length, so it wouldn't be as concentrated, and you run into erosion when you get concentrated flows, so it would dissipate that flow over a larger length.
Would that trench capture the gutters from the building and the rest of the runoff from the impervious?
It would certainly capture the back portion of the house, and wherever it came off the roof, we could direct it
Okay.
to the spreader trench.
Are you gonna leave the grass there, or is it gonna be mowed? Does that work? There's no requirement, right? That's not in the zoning.
That's not in our, that's a good one, but we're not,
Well, it's just all dirt, really.
we're not talking about whether or not you're gonna mow the grass or not.
Vote against it.
That's a good one. Any other questions right now? Yes.
I'm just concerned because I look at that gully out my deck and it starts like from this side, facing east, facing west, and it opens up a certain place and then drops down. The rest of it's flat. So why can't you take it right to where it opens or have it dumped down in there?
Well, if you look at the lines, I mean, it is all downhill from the structure, and I can't read the.
It's below the flat area. What are those
Yeah.
contours, are they 2 feet, or what are they?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
two.
they're
One, actually.
They're 1
You-
foot.
From the parking lot level down to that lower corner, you've got a 15-foot drop.
Yeah.
Which is where all your water's gonna run.
Yeah, so that's a
You got
substantial.
15 feet.
Yeah.
And so it is all gonna run that way. You know, that's pretty clear.
Really fast, that's why they want to spread it out, so it transfers so that it doesn't erode all of
The,
Well,
the,
I've had a lot of water, I'm pretty nervous.
um,
I'm having to do all kinds of stuff to fight having, water coming in my house. So I just hope that it's not gonna create water coming my way.
you mentioned, the gutters and so forth. I mean, that could be set up so that those are definitely not pushing towards the west, and everything dumps off towards the east, so that it gets into the drainage, the established drainage that you're putting in there.
Yeah, we can work with the builder on that.
Because that would make sure that we're not putting any extra runoff on the adjacent parcels.
And the parcels from the west, you have an 86 here, you have an 85 here, you have an 84, so it is all draining this way
Yep.
right now, as it is, so. Water that falls off over here will come back.
As long as
We can
it-
grade it so it comes back here.
And as long as you don't have the
Yeah, we won't come back.
Is the duplex gonna have a basement?
What's the,
So are you gonna have footing drains going somewhere?
yep.
Okay. Significant questions at this point? I'm gonna look to bring the public hearing to a close.
Move we close the public hearing?
Second?
Moved by John, seconded by Josh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Public hearing is closed, so we're not gonna take questions at this point. We need to reopen, we can. So we have a couple waivers that have already been requested. We have a parking discrepancy potentially, so we might be looking at maybe rolling another waiver in and calling a driveway, and not, not calling it 2 parking spots if they're not side by side. I'm thinking that you stack them, I don't consider that parking. And one inside the garage and one outside. Which brings down by my count, brings the parking lot, the spaces down to 11. So, what about the waivers as requested? Whatever the thoughts are.
The culvert impeding the driveway and the curb cut drive, I'm fine with those two.
Okay.
So those I'm fine with.
Did we get any comments from the property owner to the right side there?
Nope. Not to me. They definitely are aware of this because of our notification process.
We mailed out our notifications. We have not received 3 cards back yet, which tells us they haven't accepted.
So that makes me a little nervous, that we don't have an acknowledgement from the adjoining landowner that they've received this. And we have gotten into this before, so that was a good question.
Yep, it was.
We have been in a situation where an adjacent owner came in and said they'd never received it and so forth. So that's something to think about here.
Well, we have the receipt that it was mailed and stamped. We just didn't get the green card back yet that they accepted it. So.
Do you know and is it the ones that are having a driveway next to their lot? Is they the ones-
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Okay. So we got a couple waivers, we got a parking issue, and we got a potential clerical issue.
The budding landowner is Ron Lamell.
Yep.
And we know that Ron, so he's definitely aware that Mike was looking.
Okay. We already got the lumber contracts worked out.
I think Ron's in Florida,
Okay. Be that as it may, there's still a potential clerical issue to be acknowledged. So let's hit the waivers. We got the waiver for the driveway.
Driveway
location.
abutting,
Yep.
being within 6 feet because of the culvert or
Catch basin, yeah.
catch basin. There you go, catch basin.
I'm okay in principle. It'd just be nice to have that receipt from the landowner.
So let's hold that adjoining landowner thing as a separate item right now. In general, I don't have any issue myself. John?
No issue with the waivers, if that's what you're talking about?
Yep.
or- Yeah.
The existing waivers, and the other
Waivers
one
are
was for the
fine.
number of,
All dwellings to use the one
yep.
to minimize the number of curb cuts on 15, which I'm also fine with.
Yeah, let's keep it down. Just, let's not have too many conflicting discussions. Competing discussions, not conflicting.
And then the third potential of reduced.
The number of spaces.
Right.
Because I'd kind of like not, I think I'm on board with you, Ned. I don't really want to call it a parking space if it really, truly, I think we ran into this with another application when, I think it was actually one of the original ones on River Road, and we were calling it something else.
Burlington doesn't let you count as a space. You can do 2, but that's great.
So,
Yeah, I'm just, not, totally not comfortable going ahead knowing we're gonna be creating something of a headache for the eventual residents.
Are you envisioning any restriction, I mean, is this purchase or tenants?
This would be tenants.
And are you looking at have any restriction on the number of vehicles or the? So we have some folks here in front of us, I'm assuming might be other business.
Yes, sir.
We have some other business as well, but I think we'll hold on that for a moment, and
We won't be long.
we'll entertain your discussion item, if that's okay with the commission.
Got handouts.
I'm
There will
here-
be a test on this afterwards?
Yes, sure.
I'm pretty astute, I'll do well.
So I'm here with Rick Bowe to discuss the town center. We have been approached by a national hotel chain that would like to build a hotel in the town center. We actually got quite a ways down the road with them. They were willing to work with Michelle Dufresne, Rick's architect, instead of getting a cookie cutter, national chain box, they were willing to work and modify that so it fit in with the town center and made a number of concessions as to what they might do. They did complete the marketing study. The marketing study came back great. Looked like the hotel would do well, in that location with that amount of traffic. We think it'd be a great addition for the town center. We've had a lot of discussions about trying to, give the town center a little more life maybe than what it has now, and we feel that a hotel would do that. We've got to likely be in the 70 to 90 room size, and obviously you have people coming and going. They're going to eat in the local restaurants, they're going to shop in the local shops, and it's certainly going to help the new restaurant Jules that just opened, along with Nemo's and everybody else there. So we were actually prepared a sketch plan and submitted it to staff for review, and Greg, going down through the zoning regulations, discovered that hotel is not an allowed or conditional use in the MXDC zone. It's allowed in the B1 zone, it's allowed in the MXD zone, which surrounds it, and the MXD PUD zone, which is where the Essex currently is. So obviously, as not being a permitted or conditional use, it's a non-starter for us to move forward with it, but certainly we have a lot of interest in changing the zone so that we could ask the board to entertain the hotel use on that site. So we talked to staff about what it would take to change the zoning, and obviously, as you're aware, we just went through a whole round of zoning regulations and just recently completed it. And staff didn't seem too crazy about jumping into it again, but we're here to ask you to consider that and to consider only that one item. It's not a spot zoning issue because we're not changing the zoning. We're merely adding a use. And so it'd be, in our view, as easy as updating table 2.1. And I would expect that you would add it as a conditional use because the hotel isn't a permitted use in any zone. So you would have to update the table in the MXDC district to make it a conditional use. And then you would have to update the table of conditional uses in the mixed-use development commercial district page 25. So in our view, it's a matter of updating the two tables and then going through the notice process that's dictated by state statute to allow this zoning change to happen.
We have to go through the whole public hearing process for us and the select board.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
There's no shortcut.
Nope.
So part of this seems to be a good timing in that we're looking at the town center. This seems to be more, without knowing the acuteness of your business need, this seems to be an actual ideal item to be part of the town center discussion. Less of an outside, and it almost seems, I haven't had a discussion with staff about this, but if we're committed to doing the town center review, which we have been, and which which we've been a number of years to get here, no disrespect intended in any way, shape, or form, but it does not seem to be appropriate to do a spot zone update in the midst of our full assessment of the overall parcel. I personally think it sounds like a reasonable item to include, but I'm not part of I haven't been actively in these meetings, and I'm struggling to.
Oh, no, I agree. I mean, I think it's probably a great, plus. I get the concern would be that the town center planning process is going to take a while. It's going to be, well, Paul sits there too. We're talking, you're talking a year before.
A year before the planning process.
Before it gets to the end, and
It's gonna add another year to it, so you're
yeah,
talking about
and
2 years out.
For something that's going to take effect and is going to be in effect for decades and decades and decades.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I just in the way these kind of things move, I think that it's probably too long a window. If we wanted to do it, we give it some serious consideration.
Independent of
the
whole.
Yeah, and we may want to talk to well, we've got Paula sits in that group too, and I'm not sure how you would view it, and
Well, I guess one of my questions about that.
Yes, please.
May I speak? Which parcel is this looking at?
we've looked at a couple different places. Right now, we have it next to MBT Bank.
Yeah.
And now we
So they're
take.
behind it?
Yeah,
behind it.
yeah, and we take the opposite corner now and move the green to that. And the current plan has the green being about a third bigger than what it is now. So we expanded the size of the green.
It could be.
Greg, do you have a copy of it?
I don't have, but I can pull up the master plan.
So my question is, if in all the time that these tables and uses have been applied, what would be the reason that it wouldn't be applied in this one mixed zone?
I don't know, and it's been on my list to dig a little bit and try to track it down. I haven't had
Good to
time to
have
get to it
somebody.
yet, but I did we get the application?
Well, of
Yeah,
course
we-
you do.
That's described.
I think
No,
It seems like it just fits perfectly in. And this is the number one economy brand in America for the last 14 out of 15 years. It's called Microtel by Lincoln.
I-
It's an economy brand. It's urban chic. It's really a cool flag. So, and they're very excited about this possibility. Not so much about the.
I think another issue.
Urban chic makes me
Yeah.
a little.
Ned?
Another issue is, and I'm going to speak from a little bit of personal background, but our list of permitted uses is quite limiting.
Yep.
In a lot of respects. It doesn't necessarily reflect today's economy.
I wouldn't argue that. I think, again, my concern is doing something out of cycle, and even if a hotel is exactly what is needed there, we'd be doing it in isolation without we've just committed to doing an overview and an update of something that's been in place for 25 years.
1991.
Okay, so a long time, and there's been a lot of challenges to that. Recent developments have brought a lot of complaints from townspeople about the design that was done. So do we do something that we're gonna commit to for pretty much forever, without having the whole overview in place? I mean, I wouldn't necessarily think that we would have to wait for the full cycle of approvals and so forth. If we get to the assessment, I mean, I think there might be some middle ground on this. If we get the overall assessment, the agreement of what the direction needs to be, then it might be as simple as putting an update in to this table after that assessment is done, so there's agreement and concurrency that that's.
We,
It seems to make a, I'm sorry.
we've got an opportunity in, 3 weeks for these focus groups, and that may be, depending on the turnout, it may be the ideal time to float this as part of that package out to the community. And if there's no big negative uproar, then maybe we think of how then we can push it forward and get it done.
Be a good clicker question.
Yeah,
That would
and
be-
so maybe we need to talk to the people who are putting this focused little
Study.
session together.
If
I
you
don't
can
know.
wrap this into the overall study somehow and have it be
Yeah.
a part of it and have it be a one of the Lego blocks that's included from the beginning,
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of ways and a lot of timing we could do with it. To today, without having that assessment, and I feel you're still at the assessment part, without
Mhm.
having that assessment in place, and we put something in, we're changing the game just when you're getting started. Dana?
Staff thinks that a hotel here is a fabulous idea. We are completely behind it without an assessment. This is a no-brainer to us. But procedurally, we take a while, we take a year, we do a suite of amendments, we pause, we work on the list, then we do another suite of amendments, and between the amendments, the cycles, lots of people want lots of things. Right after we finish the last one, the next week.
Before you get to that.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. So that's why we keep a list, and in order to impose some order on the amendment process, we refer to the list, and when it's, enough have built up, then we do another suite of amendments. And so we would want to include all sorts of other things with the hotel, because we're ready to go on a number of things. But staff is a little bit wary of, right in the middle of this, doing an amendment process when we're still in a very much of a public process over the overall vision, isn't order. It's a little chaotic for us, especially since we don't have Greg, and he's only going to be here with us for not too much longer. So we're going to be hiring and training another planner and going through a lot of transitions. And in normal circumstances, we wouldn't just say, oh, well, given all of this, let's just do a zoning amendment change right now under normal circumstances. But I did want to say that we really like the idea of a hotel. We don't know how it ever didn't appear there. I don't know. We don't have any questions.
So is it safe to say right now that, you voiced some potential about doing it now?
Well, yeah, I think we need to find a way to do it that we as a group aren't then later come back and be accused of, favoring one group over another. So, so we have to do it on an impartial way. And so I think the challenge for us, meaning the board, maybe in the staff, is to figure out how we get that done at the same time going down the line on the same track with this town center development.
Well, what if we just call an oversight and make a change, and then just, instead of dedicated public hearings, it's just an agenda item in the next meetings, and it goes through. And so hopefully select board could do the same thing, just have it on their agendas, as opposed
Well,
to.
it's not that easy. We have to do reports to the state, we have to deal with the regional planning commission, we have to make a presentation to the regional planning commission. This
Yeah.
takes a lot of, it takes staff time that the planning commission doesn't always see, the behind the scenes stuff. And so, we really want you to hear our words right now. Given, the transitions and what we've got going on, this would be, difficult for us right now. We are slammed by applications. if you guys want to hold up on the applications for a while, maybe we could entertain this.
Staff report story.
Can I quote you?
I mean, we can't do it all right now, and we're real focused on the town center, and this hotel idea is gonna dovetail beautifully into that. You know, we're gonna have focus groups, the hotel idea will come up, and, you know, we're gonna get this done. But we can't do it this summer, you know, we would just think of it,
So.
Not right now.
What about Ned's thought about bringing this up in that focus group as a call-out item? And if there's support, maybe that can be an item that's elevated for discussion and review over the period of time. And
I
then,
think we're gonna be talking about so many things, and so many things are gonna be elevated, you know, it's gonna be a really dynamic process. There's gonna be a lot of competing things, competing types of uses that we might want to include with a peel-off amendments for the hotel, but, I mean, I think we need to be careful here about the precedent, you know, just to, it would be, under normal situations, highly irregular to just say, oh, great idea, we're gonna do a whole zoning amendment for one use and one developer. I mean, we just can't, we're not changing a zoning district, but it doesn't look that great. We spend a lot of time saying to people, no, we're not doing chickens right now. Do you know how many times the people want us to do chickens in one isolated
let's not
zoning?
bring chickens up tonight, we're live.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying is, we always say to people, great, we're gonna put you on the list, this is when we're gonna do the
So-
next round. I mean, it's
So let's
orderly.
let's jump to the end zone here. What I'm hearing, and I haven't heard anything from you guys yet, but I'm not hearing that anybody has any heartburn over hotels as a use. But I'm also not hearing that there's support for doing it out of cycle right now. Is that a fair assessment? Or minimal support, or we want to look at something, but we're just not gonna today support an amendment to that use chart today. When is up for this, so there's some discussion. It might be able to be done as through the town center plan. We might be able to find a mechanism to call it out. Based on your staff availability and resources over the next 6 to 8 months, it's gonna be challenging. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely.
I'm not giving you a full year, I'm just, so I dropped it back. It took 4
Well,
months.
it will depend on when the new regulatory scheme for the town center is ready to go. I would imagine, we see it, sort of at the beginning. Great on there. I mean, it doesn't necessarily work for you. The same process. And
Sharon, you hit a.
So, I agree with what Dana's saying. I agree to a degree of what Ned and Paul have said. And as Greg said, we haven't had time to go through the files to answer the question, why did it miss this zone? So I would offer, Paul, rather than do the staff reports, you're welcome to come in and go through these files, or have somebody come in to try to see if they can find some language that might speak directly to it. And the other little element is, we did do some changes to the PUD and the scenic overlay. We haven't utilized them yet. It might be that we need a quick fix to the regulations because we didn't think of something. We won't know that until those applications start coming in and we start using it. So that, it's just food for thought.
We would be willing to contribute funds to the town to hire an outside consultant to help with the zoning change portion of it, if that would help move things along, considering, the lack of staff that they have now. Obviously, they have a number of outside consultants that they've used before. We've done zoning changes and some of the scenic work, and to us, that would be a possibility to provide some funding to help that get done within the current budget cycle. And we wouldn't object to, if you wanted to roll in other zoning changes along with proposed hotel changes at the same time, we could do that.
So just to get an idea of what, we're really talking 8 months to look at this from what Dana was just saying, first of the year. Just to put it all on the table, what time frame are you looking at? Now? let's,
To be practical, best case scenario for us would be to have it permitted this year. Certainly, we wouldn't be looking at construction until 2018 at the very earliest.
and that's what I was looking for, is the permitted process. I mean, we're really looking, so I think, we've got,
And we're out to really April. I mean, April of 2018 would be the ideal time that we would be ready to go.
Oh, this national chain, he's gonna pull the plans off the shelf and modify them a little bit and say, go, too.
Well,
Yeah, I know, you're gonna do your magic with the site, and he's gonna say, okay, I got one.
Well, actually,
That's what they do.
Michelle Dufresne does all of Rick's architecture, and they've already agreed, actually, to turn the plans to her, because she's already got a full
Yep.
set, and she's gonna rework. She's already started reworking the elevations and some of the layout of the building, and we've moved where the pool typically is, so they've been pretty good about accommodating, the changes that we
Yeah,
need to make to make it fit in better.
The core stuff is there, it's the,
Yes. Yes, it's the eye candy.
it's the clothes that
That's correct.
change.
So- exactly how it all goes.
You stack the rooms and the corridors, and that's,
so Tom, you gotta,
Yeah, so, can we get an application in and get it started through the process without the conditional use being in the zoning regs?
Hal?
No.
No.
If it's not permitted, it's not permitted, and we can't.
So it can't
We
even like
just-
do a scout training?
We could
So-
present it to you, but we could hammer out stipulations and that whole bit, but you couldn't approve it,
Couldn't,
Yeah.
right.
so.
Okay, so that constrains us a little bit too. What do you guys think about having an outside consultant help?
Well, I don't know. I'm just worried about the perception here.
it-
I mean, I think it's a great idea, but, we can't, if we just, any person that walks in and says, I know you guys just finished, but I want this little thing, and if we did that for everyone all the time.
We had
then-
one-
But we're not doing it for everyone. We're doing it for something that's gonna drive the economic
Well, you should see our list.
development of the region.
but we did
It's not
changes one cycle. We rolled things into the town plan changes, we rolled zoning changes in, basically for an individual, or partnership that wanted changes. And, it really was kind of a nightmare, administratively, because it was a challenge. I think there's a question that should be answered and find out why it's not in that thing. If there's any opportunity to find out, if it truly was a clerical mistake and we can go back and find documentation that said it should have been there, that's I think, a potentially different story.
That's why I asked.
So I really think before we draw lines in the sand or pour concrete, then let's find out what that answer is. And if that comes back that there was no reason, or there was something that it was an omission at some point in time, let's have a different discussion.
How different would that be? We would still need to do amendment.
I'm hung up a little bit on doing something, even if we think it's a good idea right now, when we haven't done the overall overview that needs to be done. I would really rather have the overview come back, and as part of that report saying hotels, chain restaurants, chain hotels, whatever. I'd rather have that report saying that's the appropriate thing that goes in there. Unless it's already been declared as being an appropriate thing 20 years ago. I don't think we're gonna get there, to be honest with you, but I think that's a question that should be answered.
We're certainly willing to look at it. I'd be surprised if we find anything in the records not that detailed.
Well,
Sharon's been around, so you might get lucky in that.
hey, watch that.
She's been here a while.
But even if we find, like, the smoking gun, it's like, okay, well, that's what happened 25 years ago,
Then what?
but we still need to do an amendment, and we're here today saying, we really support this in 2017.
I do agree with Dana that it's not as easy as you might think. She definitely has a process and a lot of notification and reports that need to be prepared. So, it is not just a matter of changing the table and noticing it.
Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate that. It's the unseen This is stuff we do.
And I'm not really contesting the work, I'm contesting the intent. And for me, it's, if it's already been approved in there, then it's something that we're not questioning whether or not it's appropriate for the area. If it had already been decided to be appropriate, then we can enable it and figure out when the best time to put it and how to do it after that. That's the mechanics. If it was never approved to be in there, then I think we're back to, from my point of view, holistically, is this part of the vision in the future going forward? And it should be part of that report that comes out.
Yeah, how do we do it? Yeah, I think that, if it hasn't been done before, then I think it comes back and we know a little more, obviously, from these people about what it's going to be. And it goes back to sort of my feeling that sometimes, and I can be as negative as anybody and probably worse sometimes, and you'd all agree to that too, but I think this is an opportunity for us to be out front of it if we can find the way to do it. I think as a town, it's probably a big step, but it's an important one. As I say, you look at it and you don't realize, you got the second largest political entity in the state, and maybe it's a good step forward if we can figure it out. And I think that's where we need to go. At the same time, look at the history and everything else, and see if we make it easy or it may become a little more difficult.
Are you clear in our ambiguity?
I don't know what to say.
In the next 3 weeks, we need to find out if there's anything in the file. And if there isn't, so we get into open.
I think so. I don't think this is going to be a short cycle.
I can understand that. I think it is very appropriate for the board to want to hear from the folks. That they're agreeing that a hotel is appropriate. And once that happens, then maybe we can come back with a little more concrete proposal as to how we might make this happen. And we certainly have no objection to including other things that's on your list. For the zoning changes at the same time. But
It's nice to hear the support for a hotel in a general sense.
Yeah, I think it's important that we do this right. It's very important that we do this right procedurally, and we're starting a process to engage with the community and make sure that the community is in agreement with the vision. So let's make sure we got all our dots in a row. Yeah, Paul.
I have a question. Do we have any statistics on what percentage of the housing in all of that sort of complex area is elderly?
I don't know.
Did the zoning board look at it a couple of years ago when we were looking at a conditional use for congregate housing?
I don't know that I got stats on it, but I know the master plan probably calls out.
Well, none of it in the town center is currently elderly.
Oh, right, the town center,
But-
sorry. I
The
keep
town
thinking
center,
of.
Use of it is the
Well,
town meadow
right, so
parcel.
Paula, you mean all of that area,
You
not
have
just
the
the town
Cathedral
center.
Square building is, certain 55 and over.
Yeah.
And I think.
Building C has some units, some
Building C has some
market
units,
and-
it's half mixed and it's half
Right.
senior on Building C. And then the other Building C is assisted living.
Right.
Well, it just seems to me that, given that another argument for having a hotel in that area is for people to come and visit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And be
that's
at
exactly-
proximity.
You're exactly right. That's what
Absolutely.
the lady told us,
Mhm.
that's a driver for a hotel, that's one of the drivers.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really, I think, I'm hearing everybody's in agreement that the use is appropriate.
We are-
It's enabling the process and making sure that we do it
No,
right
I
and.
understand that, but it just,
It is looking like we may be able to construct Building G as approved. We didn't get the tax credits, but we've had the housing interest in the Building X and the Building O units have really been strong. Strong enough so that it looks like that we may be able to do H without the tax credits, as a straightforward market apartment building.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, then
So,
let's move on. One question, unrelated to the actual buildings. How come the road's blocked off?
That was,
We were asked.
yes, that was for some violations and things that we were trying to get fixed.
Okay.
So it should be open, I think, as we speak, if not today, tomorrow. I know they graded it, I think I got the email today, so it will be reopened very soon.
Cool.
If not.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. So we have one item left on our agenda tonight, and that's to talk about the collaboration between the village and the town PCs. Greg's got a new version of the document. Can you bring it up, or do you want to? No?
I don't know if I can bring it up, but I can speak to it quickly. It's, the last version was part of your packets. So basically ran it by the town attorney, the village attorney, the ex officio idea. Responses were no, and maybe if we had to. And that's just based on the statutory language. It's not the idea so much as the enabling language. So we went back, talked to Dustin a little bit, took a look at the PC operating procedures in the town. Haven't had a chance to do so yet in the village, but I think it would be possible to basically invite a village planning commissioner in as a guest to be here for 4 months to sit at the table. The PC operating procedures allow the chairman to invite people to speak outside of public hearings at any time, and if there's interest in doing that, probably just having somebody at the table, and the chair each meeting would say to the public, we have somebody here, visiting planning commissioner, who would like to participate in discussion as a non-voting member, including outside of the public hearing, something to that effect. So play with the language a little bit, but that's the latest
So
concept.
pretty much in that document that we've done up, we change ex officio to visiting commissioner.
Where it says XO now says visitor.
Yeah, I mean,
It's just the ex officio part they didn't like.
And it was only, like I said, it wasn't the idea, it was just the enabling language in Vermont law.
Yep.
It talks about how the ex officio has to be an appointed official that's been appointed by the legislative body. So, the select board didn't appoint the village planning commission, so they can't then make that person an ex officio.
Makes sense.
so if we change it to visitor or visiting, whatever the language it lets us move forward, this might let us, put this in play faster, quicker, and just move it and just work with the village and just start doing this. Now, originally we talked about the two chairs being the first people to do these exchanges, and we can move forward that unless somebody has a strong desire to participate in that role. We can start with that and see where it goes. Or again, if somebody has a real desire to be part of that too.
Have at it, man.
Thursday's a good sailing weather for the next
Wow.
Any further discussion?
The other component of this is setting up a workshop. And I mean, we're looking at June-ish potentially, or June, July.
Well, we don't know when the village is ready.
Okay.
We don't know what the schedule, we haven't picked a workshop. I mean, we don't know what the schedule,
So we're gonna pick something out of the hat, work with the village and come up with a time. It might be over there at the village, because if it's easier to meet there for scheduling purposes. And when we can, we're gonna schedule a workshop of some sort to just, again, to promote collaboration. We had a few topics on that list. And when we do that, we might reach out to individuals to help facilitate the discussion. It might not be the chair or the staff facilitating the discussion. We might, if we're doing energy, maybe we'll say, Ned, can you facilitate an energy discussion, and have a corresponding member from the village PC. Again, just to start sharing some of this stuff. So unless anybody has strong feelings about how to do this, my real drive right now is to just find ways to get it going, and then fine tune the actual workflow or process once we can actually get our feet moving with it.
Yeah, it's like anything else. It's going to take you the first month or 2 months just to, get the feel of the personalities, before you can really get into it, I'm sure, because there aren't just, meet that often, so,
Yeah.
And I think it's the same as here, you know, till you figure everybody out.
So
just
we're
listen.
gonna keep this rolling unless,
Yep.
you know, if everybody, I haven't heard anything, any concerns from anybody yet
No.
doing this. So we'll keep it rolling and we'll go ahead and set something up. I'll work with Dana and now I won't work with Greg anymore. Which, by the way, we had to say congratulations to Greg.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So can you elaborate?
I'm sliding over to the manager's office full time.
Yeah, he's going to the dark side.
But you're not leaving it.
Dusty, I have one thing.
Yes, Sharon.
So,
Part of
I just wanted
management
to
or
report
something.
that my March 23rd, 17 tape, I had to change the batteries at that meeting, and for some reason, part 2 was damaged, so I don't know if those batteries were not alive, but I have part 1, I do not have part 2, so I'll just let you know.
For March 23rd, the ones that we just approved tonight?
Yes, the digital,
The actual tape.
yes.
Well, nobody had any concerns with
Right,
the content
right,
of the
right,
minutes, so
right.
I think we're okay.
No,
Yeah.
because by the time that ended, we were all kind of numb anyway, so we really don't remember.
No, that's not true. We were all dead on. We were on top of our game every single meeting.
That's always.
All right, anything else that we need to bring up? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Will we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
All right. Thank you, thank you.
7:59.
Your insufficient parking spaces will come back to haunt you. Mark my word.
I have a single driveway and I have to back up and switch
I know
things
other
around.
people
So do we, I mean, my driveway is like, oh my God.